missing. Your designer, call him. Anyway, they ain't never felt me to the Millie's cave. Shit is strange, city screaming name, feelings never change. Get more than I gain to the grave, still I hear complaints. Bitches sit and say, wishing way, waiting against the grain. I ain't never changed, I've been here before I hit the stage. All this really did was in my way to some better days. They don't want you up, they want you caged, cause they feel the same. Straight on, bitch, I wear it on my arm, I can feel the pain. I ain't been afraid, I went in it with no praise. These minutes turn into days, and feelings turn into shame. I'm clocking in underpaid, but beating minimum wage. I know these lyrics one day gon' open more than the page.
Welcome back to another episode of Soul Sessions. Today we have a very special guest. Somebody that I look up to not only in business, but has been kind of a life mentor to me. My Uncle Ivan, but you guys probably know him as Ivan Sher. He sold over $3 billion in real estate, and I'm super happy he came on the show today. How you doing?
Oh, buddy, what a pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. So proud of my nephew. This is awesome. I love it.
I'm excited. All right. So I got did some research on you.
Uh-oh, it's never good. Never good. Dark web stuff.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So before you even thought about doing real estate, which we know was you talked to your dad about, which is how you kind of got into real estate. You were selling knives with Cutco. You were selling Amway. How was that? What were the results with doing that kind of sale?
Those were all lifetime ago. I have to tell you that I got into real estate because in all honesty, because I didn't qualify for anything else. I mean, my grades were really bad. I was not scholastic. I'm not a test taking kind of guy. I don't really fit in well in a lot of circumstances. And the only thing I had is I had, great family. Family is everything to me. And they kind of instilled in me just, be good, be kind, help people as much as you can. And somehow that translated into people skills, just talking to people, being authentic and being real. And back then I didn't know that would lead to sales. And so I started out because I didn't qualify for anything and being entrepreneurial, knowing that I wanted to get out there and earn a buck and didn't know how to make my own schedule, be in charge of my life. And so the first thing I did was Cutco knives. Well, actually I sold carpet.
That was the first sales
job you had? I wasn't even, let me back up. I didn't sell carpet. I stocked carpet. I was like a stalker of carpet. Then I worked at Target as a stalker in Target, and then I worked at all great things. I thought Target was the coolest store in the world when it came out. And then
when it came out.
Right, that qualifies age right there, right there. We can edit that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So no teasing. So nothing needs to be edited. Are we low on the mics?
No, I just had to fix my mic.
Yeah.
Cool. We're good.
Mine's good?
Yep, yours good.
Okay. So anyway, then I got into the first thing I did was selling Cutco knives, and I think I was like horrible at it. I really do, because I was so nervous. I only sold to my parents' friends, and they had to buy.
How much did you do in your entire career of selling Cutco knives?
I have no idea. I did it for a summer, and it was. I remember selling a $300 knife set, and I'm like, who would spend $300 on a set of knives? And all my dad's and mom's friends bought them, and I'm like, I got a little boost of confidence, but at the same time,
you really have to sell them. It's
my parents' friends. Yeah. What are they going to do? No. So did that, and then when I got into real estate, I was always looking for that next best thing. I got into real estate, and I was just failing at it. I just wasn't succeeding. I was getting on the phone and calling people, and they didn't like me.
Actually, I don't mean to cut you off, but I actually found out that you got $7,000 in your first year of real estate.
A full seven.
Full seven.
Full $7,000.
Before taxes or after?
Before. That was a full $7,000, and it was rough. And so I was looking for something to supplement it, and I met some really cool people, and they were high on life, and they were excited, and they were energetic, and they were going places, and they all were supportive of one another. And found out later that it was the Amway business, and I thought, what? I called my parents up because they were in it many, many years ago as well.
This was after your first year of real estate?
Yeah.
Oh.
This was my first year of real estate.
So you were doing Amway as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
First or second year of real estate. And it was the kind of thing where I called my parents up and like, listen, give it a shot, see what you think about it. There are people that make money. It's not quite what you think it is. So I did, and I did it for 5 years, and I made very little.
While you were doing real estate?
While I was doing real estate. Wow. And it was my passion over real estate, because the dream is to buy your freedom back.
Right.
That's the push. It's not the product. It's the result of the product. and it was like, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to get free. I got to be able to. I was 23, 24 years old, and I wanted to be retired already. I was ready. It was time, right? So it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but absolutely no regrets. Met the most amazing people. I think it's a great business model for a lot of people. And there are many business models that have come from it. Some that are not so good and more illegal and pyramid schemes, and some that are great, that have been incorporated in real estate models. And I have friends making a killing at it, and they're doing a wonderful thing.
And I'm sure the experience helped you with your real estate.
Oh yeah, best sales tools I've had for sure.
Yeah, so let's talk about the transition into real estate. So I know you sat with your dad, my grandpa, because you didn't know what you wanted to do, and you kind of like broke down what you were good at, what can make you the most money, and you kind of balanced it out and found real estate. Then you made $7K your first year, $12K your second year. What kind of changed from those kind of rough years to actually starting to make good money and be able to support yourself?
It took a long time. So here's what I believe. I always knew in my heart that I was going to succeed. I just didn't know how. I didn't have, as I mentioned, I didn't have any real skills. I didn't have any, my mind didn't work well in business and numbers, and that wasn't my skill set. And everyone around me was starting to succeed, and I'm going backwards. I didn't understand it. So it wasn't honestly until I moved to Las Vegas. And I came to work for Florence Shapiro, who was ultimately my partner.
She rejected you at first, huh, when you applied?
It was interesting. There was an absolute connection. She was like, it was such a great interview. It was this energy, and she had that same vitality that let's just go do it kind of an attitude. And she was older than me by 20-something years, and maybe, 20-something years. And she just, I don't know, I couldn't understand her because she's from France. And she had this thick accent, and all I knew, she smiled. She said something about $200,000, and I'm thinking, $200,000, that would solve my world. 100,000 would have changed my world. And
this was after you had kids, right?
This is after.
So
I had Max and Maddie. This was my second child.
Okay.
Yeah, after Maddie.
So you were kind of, part of the motivator was to make sure you could give them a good life.
Oh, that's the whole deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you want your kids to have a better life than you had.
Right.
I had a freaking amazing life. And I wanted my kids to have just the best life. We all want the best for people we care about, especially family and our children. And so what ended up happening is, first year when I started working for Florence, I think it was a half year because I came in the summer. I probably made, I don't know, 60 grand next year. And I'm just going from memory, which is not good at 54.
What was the difference between the first brokerage you worked for where you were making $12K and then your first year with Shapiro where you were making $60, $80K? That was Anthony Hussein.
What's up, buddy? It's
You're on the Lil Jude show.
Yeah, dude.
The Lil Jude
one
show is
one day
great.
we're gonna look back on this and say, "Thank God, he let me on."
That's mindset, man. Exactly.
Dude, I like the glasses.
Thanks. I need them nowadays.
Yeah, so
Are we back on?
no, you're good. We've been good. Yeah.
Okay.
So you had your first year with your first brokerage. You made $7K first year, $12K second year. And then your first year with Shapiro, you skyrocketed and made about 60 to 80. What was the difference? Was it the leads or was it just your mentality or?
It was the right vehicle. It's never the brokerage, it's always the person. So with Florence, she was one of the top, if not the top broker or agent, luxury agent in the city. And she was, and I didn't know it at the time, but she was looking to slowly phase out of the business. By slowly, I mean 20 freaking years later. But she wanted to phase out of the business. And so she was looking to offset certain things, like she didn't want to work with buyers. She didn't want to work with, she only wanted to handle listings on the listing side. So she'd give me all her buyer clients and all her buyer leads. And all of a sudden, I started developing confidence. It was my number one inhibitor to my success was lack of confidence. Even though I talked the talk, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that I could go out there and be successful and create. And I believe, first of all, the first thing I believed is, why would somebody list with me?
I had a quote that I pulled from one of your podcasts where you said you felt like you didn't believe in your own product because you felt like you didn't provide any value. Like, why wouldn't someone just buy their own house themselves?
Exactly. Why would somebody use me? They could do it on their own. I thought real estate agents were a farce, and I was doing it because it was the only thing I knew how to do, right? And it wasn't until maybe 2 years into it with Florence, and the numbers went up to 250, 350, and started going higher in terms of my annual return, what I was making. It wasn't until all of a sudden I realized anybody can do it, but all of a sudden I'm their advisor. I'm like just like you can trade stocks, and you can get good at it. If that's all you're going to do, that's great. But if you have a career outside of that, you want to hire the best person to help you maximize whatever your goals are with that money. I became that person, or one of those people. And all of a sudden people say, Ivan, what should we do? Should we sell it? Should we take it? And at first I'm like, I don't know. And then I started saying, well, I would do this. And then I started believing in myself. I started watching these people taking my advice and succeeding. I'd go sell you a house, Jude. At the time, the one I'm thinking of specifically, $2.5 million home in Canyon Fairways 15 years ago. And then maybe 90 days later, I'd come knock on your door and say, hey, Jude. And I kind of laugh. I'm like, how committed are you to your marriage? And you say, what are you talking about? I say, well, I'm about to offer you something which might put your marriage in jeopardy. You say, what are you talking about? I got a buyer for your house. Because obviously no marriage likes to go through two moves in 90 days. It was a joke. And they'd all laugh, and then they'd look at it, and I'd make them money. And all of a sudden, I started creating money for my clients. And I thought, this is incredible. This is what I love to do. And I just go from client to multiple sales per house. And obviously part of that was the market. But then I started to believe in myself, and then I knew what I was doing and why I was doing it.
So you saw yourself more as an advisor than a salesman?
I saw myself as an asset. As why wouldn't you use me? If you don't use me, you're going to most likely make the wrong choice.
That's a big mindset shift from when you first started.
It's a huge shift, but that shift is when we're in social settings, you want me around you. You as the client, hey, let me introduce you to Ivan, as opposed to, oh crap, here comes Ivan. Let's everybody duck. All of a sudden, they saw me as I saw myself, which was a valuable asset to their collection of advisors.
And how important was your mentorship with Shapiro to get you to that level of knowledge to become a solid advisor for people with millions? And because you were doing luxury, and it's probably more nerve-wracking when you're dealing with big money rather than smaller money. So how important was that mentorship for you?
Listen, I've had amazing mentors in my life, right? I've had Grandpa, my dad. He's been, he is the character. He's the pillar, right? And then I've had, and I'm just talking about my male mentors because my mom was obviously amazing as well. And I'm about to contradict myself because there was
Shapiro.
So in business. So then there was Florence. And I'm sorry, let me back up even a little more. So
Uncle Stanley.
Yeah, Uncle Stanley. He was, let me tell you what I learned from him. Okay. I came in my 20s, and I'm going to back up a little bit. Oh, whoa.
I'm muted.
Yeah. So in my 20s, when I was in Tucson selling houses, I absolutely failed at every level.
That was a 7K year?
That was my 7K year, 12K year. And then when Max was born, my first child, I stopped selling completely. Aunt Jen and I would just sit there and look at Max and just be in awe. And then the awe that came later was, I can't pay my bills because I haven't been working for 6 months.
How were you bringing money in at that time? I
had some money set aside, and it was, I actually don't even remember. It's a blur. I don't remember, but all I know is at that moment, that's where I needed to be. And then I got out of that moment and started hustling and kind of started to figure things out. And that's when my dad said, Ivan, we're pulling you out of Vegas. You're going to go work for your uncle. And at that point, you do what especially with Grandpa, you do what your dad says. And I went to go work for him, and I had all these ideas, all these preconceived notions about my scripts and dialogues, and I was a huge mic.
You were doing cold calls for like 5 hours a day, huh?
I was doing cold calls.
Yeah.
I'd call all day. I had the airplane little headset on. Oh yeah, I had my scripts down, but I was just going through the motions because I didn't believe in myself at that point. I was failing so miserably. And when I went to go work for my uncle, what ended up happening is I learned a different side, a relationship side. And I still thought I was right. I still thought that, it's a numbers game, churn and burn, do your scripts. And there's a place for that for sure. My best experience with him, and I don't know.
Is this where you took the lunch to the guy's house? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
Yeah, please tell the story.
Yeah, it was one of the greater learning, humane, moral learning experiences that I had. Is my uncle calls me up and he's like, Ivan, come on over. He said on Saturday, he goes, I want to show you something. I said, okay. And so I went to his house and he's packing these brown paper bag lunches. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, come with me. And I get in his car and he drives maybe 5 miles down the road and he gets out and we're at this charming but older little house. He knocks on the door, hello, hello. And he walks in, and there's nobody in the house. And we walk in, he says, hello, hello, it's Stanley. And he walks in and I hear, hey, Stanley. And we get to the back of the house and there's an old man sitting in a wheelchair, reading a newspaper with like 3 cats, like all around him. The guy had nobody. And he's an old war veteran. And he was sitting there and Stanley's job, in this moment, was just to be a human being. I brought you lunch again. What's going on in the world? We were there for 45 minutes. I want you to meet my nephew. That's it. We all sat there and ate our lunches together. At the end, he goes, well, we got to go. Great to see you. I'll see you next week.
That's incredible.
And that moment, I'm like, my world is focused on me. I'm so involved in my own survival that I don't even see other people's needs. And it kind of opened it opened up something inside me where I realized there's a bigger picture. And that translated later on in life to other things. But that was my first human experience to there's more to life than just making a buck or trying to make a buck.
Yeah, it's cool because even though like you'd look back on those times as unsuccessful financially, you can take everything from each experience, which I think is really cool. And that's probably played into how you become so successful in what you do now, just building genuine relationships with people.
It's such a huge shift for me because my belief is that thankfully, and I it's, my life has done this financially, so it's hard to remember the exact time period, but I've never been transactional. What I mean by that is you're locked into contract with me. You owe me this commission and you need to pay it to me no matter what, no matter what. It would be more like, Jude, you're unhappy. Tell me what's going on. How can we fix it? And if I can't fix it, absolutely, I'll let you out. Because I don't want to be working with somebody that doesn't want to be working with me. That's only going to, even if I win, I lose. Even if I win, you end up selling your house through me and being pissed off at me and telling the whole world what a scumbag I am. And I kind of am if I do that, right? It's not about the money. It's about the relationship. And it's not the relationship from like a what's the word I'm thinking of? Like a kumbaya, like, hey, I want the relationship. It's not about the relationship. It's about what's the right thing to do for your soul. And what's right is what's good, kind, and fair. And that's what I try and emulate in all my transactions. Now, I will try and fight to keep the relationship in any way that I can, so long as we're both on the same page. But if you get to a point after a few weeks, or I get to a point after a few weeks or a few months, it's like, hey, Jude, this just isn't working. Or Ivan, I've tried. I'm so sorry. I really want to get out of this contract. I'll say, Jude, I get it. No problem.
And that's probably something that sets you apart, because a lot of realtors that I know personally have commission breath, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. That leads me to my next quote. I can memorize it. Even when I needed it, I didn't need it. And you were saying you should never be in a position where you're relying on that transaction to get you through, because it'll, like you said, it'll show through to the client. Explain that quote a little bit. Yeah,
it's you said commission breath. That's fantastic. It has to be about them, not about you. And the more desperate you are in life, and we can't control our desperation in life, right? But the more desperate you are in life, the more you make decisions that necessarily aren't in the best interest of the client, and are decisions that you can't be always proud of. So I try and put myself in my clients' positions and make decisions that if the roles were reversed, or if it was my sister, right? Or if it was one of my kids, what advice would I want to give them? What advice? I always put people I care about in the flip side of it. And then that's the right answer.
Do you think that's what set you apart from, because obviously you've kind of dominated the industry. Do you think that's been the main key factor that set you apart?
It's being set apart is there's other fantastic agents out there, really great agents, and they have their they probably adopt very similar ideals. Florence really helped for me because she had a network of people that were best in class, best in the city. She had belief in me. She groomed me for what I'm doing now, and she helped me. She took, my dad's and Uncle Stanley's and and maybe some other mentors that I had in business along the way, and helped give it finesse and class, and validated what I needed validating, and helped me shed what I needed to shed. And I also, there's a couple of other mentors I had as I grew, because when Florence passed away, which I'm sure is in your notes, when Florence passed away, I didn't, it's one thing to sell houses, but to be the CEO of a company is completely different. And
You'd been a partner beforehand, though. How long? Or did you?
She and I were partners, but it was her company.
Right.
She started.
She was still mentoring you at that point.
She wasn't mentoring me, but she ran the company. So clearly I'm not quick, mentally, right? So for 15 years, I was her partner, but it was her business, and she made the decisions in that company because she started it and she funded it to begin with. And when she passed away, even though we'd kind of gone over what would happen when I ran the company,
it's a whole nother thing when it happens.
One of my favorite quotes is that knowledge and experience are two different things.
Absolutely.
It's completely different, and you fall on your face and you learn. And in that time, I had two people kind of jump in and help me throughout that process. The first was Pam, who's now my director of operations, and she said to me, Ivan, listen, I remember the lunch we had. She saw that, I was 6 months into it after Florence's passing. It could have been the end of us, end of me. It could have been the end of my business. And my belief was, my interior dialogue was that everyone will realize that I'm not good enough, number one. And number two, all the clients that we have are here because of Florence, not because of me. And so I was just watching that happen in my head. I was just waiting for it to unfold. And Pam said to me, she goes, Ivan, I've run businesses before. I've done this, I've done that. Let me help you run the company. You go out and sell houses. And I said, fantastic. She goes, and then Mark came in, Mark Stark, who was the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the time. And he said to me, phenomenal guy. And he said to me, still one of my greatest mentors and dear friends. And he said to me, he goes, Ivan, I'm going to teach you to be a CEO. And he helped me develop business skills. And so over the next few years, I was kind of groomed to survive and to grow and to flourish. And then for some reason, I have these amazing people all around me, and they help me because it's not something you do on your own. Anybody that says they did it on their own, they're just not looking far enough. And and they're making it about them, and it's not. There's amazing people around them, and every day I'm thankful for the people around me.
That's awesome. What was the transition like in the first couple months of when you did take ownership? Was it a failure at first, and then you kind of learned from your mistakes, or did those mentors kind of help ease that process?
So I failed big time. So I didn't know I didn't know what I was doing. I was out there. So Florence passes away, and I get out there and I start. My team started to. I was bringing the wrong people. I didn't know which direction to go. I have a business coach as well, which I should mention as well. Ken is also definitely one of my mentors, and he helped me throughout this process. I had, and he still does, and I just didn't know. I didn't know what to do. It's like you don't know what you don't know, right? So I just sat there and made decisions and made stuff up, and it's like a director on a ship or a captain on a ship, not knowing that all you have to do is keep it steady. I was turning the wheel this way and then turning the wheel that way, and forward and then backward. I had no clue what I was doing, and that's when Mark, Ken, and Pam jumped in to help me out.
Did you reach out, or could they just see what was happening?
They reached out to me
because they saw what was happening with the business.
To reach out.
That's what I was wondering. How did you get those connections like in that state?
So Pam had been working with me for a while, and so she just saw it and reached out to me.
Was she part of the team at that point? Okay.
and Mark was the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, and I was a part of Berkshire Hathaway.
Okay.
So he'd been
Keeping
coaching
tabs.
Florence and I the entire time as well.
I see.
And then Ken, my actual business coach, was with me the entire time.
So would you say that was kind of the transition when you started taking that business to the next level?
100%.
Nice. So mentorships.
100%.
I heard a quote where it's just pay someone to, I don't even know if you paid them, you probably didn't because it's different circumstances, but pay someone to tell you how they got to where you want to go so you can learn the mistakes without getting the scar.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's super important, but that scar is important too.
Yeah, because like at that point you had a big company that just got inherited to you. So a mistake is not just like you have nothing to lose. Like you had plenty to lose at that point.
Unfortunately, the scars are how I learn. If you could sit there and explain to me what to do, but until I go out there and do it and fall on my face, I'm one of those people that learns that way, not to fall the same way twice. So,
like you said, what was it? Acknowledge and what was the quote you just said? Experience and something.
Knowledge and experience.
Knowledge and experience are two completely different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with a strong mentor.
Oh yeah.
So this is a quote that I've heard you say personally a lot in multiple of your podcasts. You say, people ask me if I like real estate. I don't. I like winning. I like bringing people with me. I like failures. I like finding out why I failed and building from there. Explain a little bit about your passion for real estate.
So I'm going to modify the quote a little bit. I do like real estate, but it's a widget. If I didn't like what I do for a living, I wouldn't do it. I love the people component of it. I love, the entrepreneurship of having my own brokerage. Sometimes I want to shoot myself in the head, but I love all of that. I love the risk. I love the reward. I love the growth, but it's a widget. If making water bottles was profitable and I had some in on making water bottles, I could just as easily have been a water bottle maker or an Amway distributor, right? It doesn't matter. When you're entrepreneurial, you're entrepreneurial. Real estate's a great vehicle. It's a phenomenal vehicle and I do really enjoy it, but it's a vehicle.
Yeah, and another quote you said, I'm trying to remember exactly. You said you do what you have to in order to create the wealth to get a life you deserve and that you want to live. So real estate may not exactly be your passion, but it's a means to build the lifestyle that you've created.
Real estate becomes your passion because real estate allowed me to believe in myself. Real estate allowed me to
reinforce that belief.
It reinforced that belief. And real estate allowed me to get entrepreneurial. Real estate allowed me to start making money. Once I started making money and succeeding, then I realized I love succeeding.
Addicted to success, like you said.
Addicted to success. And that's what it is. It's the vehicle that allowed that I was fortunate enough to fall into, which allowed me to create a lifestyle, allowed me to succeed, allowed me to find the thing I love the most about success is failure. And when you're going through failure, it never feels like that. It's like, what can I do to avoid failure? But
so you get the most growth.
My failure is where I grow. If you learn from it, like when I lost or when I lose a listing appointment, I want to find out what happened and why. And then when I realize what happened and why, I want to beat the person next time. My competitor. I want to beat the person that beat me.
What would you say was your biggest failure that turned into the biggest growth moment for you?
Great question. It comes down to confidence. I didn't, I'm kind of reiterating myself, but I'd lose listing it when Florence died. So let me back up. When you're in real estate and you want to be successful, the name of the game is listings. You got to list houses. You can work with buyers, which I love doing, but the
'cause that's a double transaction.
The money component is the listings. You sign a contract. They come. It ultimately will sell unless you're grossly overpriced. So you gather listings, and then that brings in buyers. And whether it's that house or another house, you've got revenue coming in. And I forgot your question. Do you remember your question?
I do. I said, in your career, what was the biggest failure that gave you the most growth?
And so my point to that was that I'd go on listing appointments, and I would go there knowing that I wasn't gonna get it. And I was a buyer's agent. I loved working with buyers. If you remember from the beginning, Florence groomed me to work with buyers.
Right.
And I loved that because I could control it. I could put houses in front of them. I could get them in my car. I could make it happen. With a seller, I felt like I just sit there and wait. But I didn't. It was a mental block I had. And all of a sudden I realized when I started getting enough listings, because I didn't like going on listings. And when Florence passed, I knew that the company would fail.
If you didn't?
If I didn't. So I started going on listings and I would lose and lose and lose and lose. And finally,
And that was right in that transition period we were talking about when you inherited the company.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And a little after that.
So you had to work in the company.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I was working in the company. I was trying to get listings and listings. I was losing and failing. And finally I called up one of my clients and I said, Jude, and I already, when I called him up because I hadn't heard from him, I knew he was, in my head I was hearing the story. Oh, Ivan, we loved you, but we're going a different direction. That's exactly what he said. Imagine that. He said, oh, Ivan, we love you, but we're going a different direction. And I said, the word was direction. And and I said, Jude, I said, let me ask you something. I said, what was it? For the first time I decided to ask this. I'm like, Jude, what was it about that other person that made you want to list with them? But before I said that, I'd say, Jude, congratulations. Listing with so-and-so is a great person, even if I didn't like the person. I'd say, this is a great company. You're going to be really happy. So, but let me ask you, I felt like we connected really well and I'm growing my business. I'd like to learn from it. What was it? Now, remember, this is 5 years ago, right?
It's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago. In a 30-year career, it's not that long ago. So I said, what was it about so-and-so that made you want to list with them? And then they started saying stuff like, "Oh no, you both were great. It was such a tough decision," and I'd let that go. And then I changed it because I'd go another layer deeper. I'd say, "What was it about that person that made you want to list with them or not list with me?" And they'd say, "Oh no, that person was great and you were great. It was a really tough decision." I said, "No, I totally get that. But if there were to be one thing, I could change and do differently, what would you say?" And they'd always tell me. Always go a layer deeper. They'd say, "Oh my God, Ivan, well, if there was to be one thing, well, I guess if I had to choose something, it'd be that this person had international marketing, or it had to be that this person shows his own properties, or this person, whatever it is." And so once I knew what people were saying about me or how they were pitching themselves, I redeveloped my listing presentation and I started getting my listings again.
Do you think a lot of salesmen and agents give up too easily when they get rejected?
I think that's a yes, but it's not about giving up on the client. It's about
Giving up on the reason.
That's it. It's there are people that push for the listing. That's not me. I push to get information so I can get the next one. And if this person gets it, great. I mean, if I get this one, great. And if it's salvageable, I'll work it. I want to know how to perfect what I'm doing. For if you've already listed or you've made your decision, I'll give it a shot. I really want to know because I'm not transactional and I really don't care. I mean, I'd like to have this listing, but if you've made your decision, I just want to learn for the next one, and then I'll get the next one. And that's when I realized how competitive I am. I didn't know I was competitive. People, because I'm pretty easygoing and I don't really, pretty laid back, right? I didn't think that I was competitive. And all of a sudden, when they started understanding why I was losing, I wanted to win. And I committed to winning. And then I started winning.
Is that the main thing that set you apart, you think, when you started actually taking those criticisms and applying them?
That was huge.
Yeah.
That was a big shift for me. That was something that allowed me to grow. Because if you keep getting listings and sales, that's great for the now. But all of a sudden the market changes and there's more competitors, or you have to, the market changes, you have to change your script. You're toast. You need to understand where you succeed, why you succeed, and how to adapt.
Absolutely, I agree. Failure only. I just want to remember all the quotes because I wrote them down. Failure only. That is actually a good point based off what you were just talking about. Failure only happens when you decide you failed. Otherwise, you keep pushing. That was a quote you said as well. Explain that a little bit.
I mean,
it's pretty self-explanatory, but like
no, it's so true though. It's a great point that you're making. It's a decision. It's a decision to win, and it's a decision to lose, right? once you accept the fact that you are done, then you're done. Otherwise, you keep pushing. And for me, the win is the growth so that I can get the next one, or the win is overcoming the objection right here. When I'm in the moment, when I'm on a listing appointment with somebody, I'm there. And again, it's not a pitch. I'm not pitching anybody. We're having a conversation. And it's so interesting because I've brought agents with me on my team to listing appointments with me. And it's basically you and I sitting down having a chat. Now, if you know me, if you're the seller and you know me and you know the company, it's an easier conversation. If you don't know me, within about 3 minutes, you know that I'm substantive, you know that I've been around, you know that I've accomplished, and you know you want to listen, as opposed to be right. And so I add value that way. That wasn't your question. Your question was about failure. So I believe that, you know, you can look at the speed bump in front of you, no matter how large it is, and you can say, God, you know, I've never walked the speed bump. I'm going to trip and fall. How am I going to get over that? You know, well, you can just step over it, right? Or if it's a wall, you can walk around it, or you can build a ladder, or there's always a way to win. You just have to decide that you're going to win. And the win is not in the single sale or the single transaction. The win, it's a life decision. People that don't believe in the win, I think ultimately have a victim mentality. Oh man, it's the market. And
I hear that a lot.
Or
for sure.
oh man, it's, you know, just for some reason, these people only like this type of a person. I'm not that kind of a person. Or I'm not the kind of person that can speak to people the way she can or he can. They have an advantage. Or this person comes from money. Of course they have connections. Or this person was born in Las Vegas. They know everybody. It's what you're tricking yourself into your own success or self-doubt and loss and victim mentality.
Yep. It's like they look for implanted excuses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they create reasons for where they are as opposed to creating reasons to succeed and excel beyond where they are.
I have a quote that I like to say where it's, once you start, or Alex Hormozy actually said this. He said, once you're in a position where they start comparing themselves to you, start making excuses of why you are where you are, that's when you know you've actually won. That's the best revenge.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it.
Okay, we still got some time, just making sure we're good. This was a question I really wanted to ask you. What was the biggest change that you saw in the people around you once you started becoming successful?
The people around me helped me become successful. I'm really, like, I know a lot of people. I just do, just because I'm in those, and I say that in the least egotistical way. I just know people.
It's not even, that's just a tribute to your efforts.
Thank you. It's like I know people because I've been in the city for 30 years, because I'm in sales and I connect with people. There's a handful of people that I hang out with all the time. And it's so critical to my growth to surround myself with people that are in alignment or better than me in so many ways. In my office, I have agents that are better than me in so many things. In my admin in my office, each one of those people can do things that I could never do. And so the people that I surround myself with then and now are people that are as good or better than me, and are people that are transparent and have nothing to prove. They're just real people. Whether they have $50 or 50 million, it doesn't matter, or 500 million, 5 billion, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're just regular people. And we're all trying to figure life out. People have had $5 billion and lost everything. People have had $50 and made millions. It just doesn't matter. We're all working together. We're all trying to figure it out. We're doing it our way. Just be kind and uplifting to people and do the best that you can, and life happens the way it should. So I've been fortunate enough my whole life to be surrounded by excellent people.
I want to go back to your point you just said about people have made billions and lost it all. What's been the best, because obviously your transition from making no money to decent money to big money to unheard of money was pretty quickly, or at least the first transition was, right? So how were you able to manage that money well in order to build wealth? At
first it was poor. It was really poor. In fact, my first house my first custom home that Aunt Jen and I bought, it was a custom home in Eagle Hills, beautiful home. At the time it was $1 million, and nobody spent, I mean, not nobody, but I couldn't believe us spending $1 million on a house. You know, today it'd be, you know, 3 times that, right?
Yeah.
But $1 million on a house, I couldn't believe it. And so we're in the house, and we're in it for just about a year. And then all of a sudden, I got an email from the IRS saying that I owed $30,000 and there was a lien against the property. And I thought, oh my God, I don't have $30,000. Didn't have $30,000. So
But you had $1 million house.
but I had $1 million house. So I had to sell the house for 30 grand. For $27,000, I had to sell my house,
Your $1 million house.
my $1 million house. And as I said, everything happens the way it should, and great things.
Good learning moment.
Great things came of that. Good learning moment, and positive things came from that. Number one, I didn't put myself in that position again. So in my industry, there's a big push for your volume and who did this and who did that, but all those things are fake numbers. It's BS numbers. It's like we did 700 million, you did 5 million. It
Smoke and mirrors.
It doesn't matter. It's how much you keep.
Yeah.
How much did you donate? How much did you put away? That's what's important. That's what's interesting.
And that's kind of what made you. Do you think now you're smarter with your money management? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm older. I have to be. I have to be. I have money to leave to my kids. I have money that I want to, I want to set aside for big experiences in my life. Absolutely.
Do you think you should live under your means as an entrepreneur always?
I think
At least to a point.
I think the answer to the question is yes. And it's not something I've been really good at my whole life. It's things that I've adopted and let go and then adopted again. I love living a full life and having great fun but I definitely believe that you pay yourself first. You put money aside first. And then you have
splurge.
Money. Yeah. Not even splurge, but then you give yourself a gift. Set goals, and if you hit this, then that can happen. But absolutely setting up savings, preparing for tough times, be smart with your money, because when you're older, you don't have that luxury. You have to do it.
It's funny you say set goals too. This brings me to something I was thinking about the other night. I wanted to hear your take on this. I think true purpose comes from unachievable goals versus what other people think. So if you set a goal so big, right, the idea of achieving that goal usually gives you more purpose and motivation than the satisfaction of actually achieving that goal. Do you think first, do you agree with that? It's kind of like a rabbit on the stick. Or the carrot on the stick. Once you get the carrot, it's not as satisfactory as when you envisioned yourself with the carrot. Do you think, A, do you agree with that? And B, have you set goals that you feel are like unachievable that keep you purposeful?
Great questions again, Jude. My belief is that that the journey is actually the goal.
Agreed.
And what I mean by that is, yes, you got to have your goal. But if you're waiting for that moment where you can sit in your Ferrari, or you're waiting for that moment where you can buy the house of your dreams, or have that, $500,000 check, or whatever it is, $100,000, $50,000, $10,000, $5,000 check, whatever it is, when you get it, your life is purposeless. After that, It's got to be the discovery process. It's what you get to do, what you get to experience. It's got to be the journey, because guess what? I'm 54, soon I'll be 64, then I'll be 74, then I'll be 84. And if I'm just waiting for something to happen at each of those milestones, by the time I'm 84, I look back and think, now what? I have lived a very full life. I have lived a life of satisfaction. I've lived a life of family. I've lived a life of fun things. I've lived a life of travel. I've lived a life of great friends. I've really lived a full life. When Florence passed away, she died of cancer, pancreatic cancer.
She died at 62, yeah.
She died at 72, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she said to me, I'll never forget when we found out that she had cancer. I was just talking to a friend of mine about this today. And she said to me, when she told me she had cancer on the phone, I said, Florence, don't worry, we'll beat this. We'll find a way. She said, Ivan, this isn't the kind of cancer you can beat. I said, Florence, listen, we will make this, we will find a way. And she said, Ivan, I'm not afraid to die. And I looked at her. I didn't, because she was on the phone. And I thought, what? She goes, I'm not afraid to die. And she said, Ivan, my mom had a saying. She said, it's a wonderful life if you have the courage to live it. And she said, I've had a wonderful life. I'm like, whoa.
That's beautiful.
I'm like, whoa. It's incredible. And she did. She had this, she embodied life. When you met her, you could feel the energy. You could feel all of it. She was just, she had this, well, it's energy and this vitality. And she was strong, but she was kind. She was a very special lady.
Do you feel like by the end of your life that you will have the same experience as she did, the same kind of resolve and peace?
She was the most resolute woman that I know. Peace is something that we all work on within ourselves. I am very comfortable with my life at this stage. There have been moments where I have not been comfortable with choices, with actions. Where I am today, I'm very fulfilled. I feel very comfortable. This is not a sign that I want to die, but I am very comfortable in my life, my skin. It's been a long journey for me, and I'm very thankful for the people around me. I have a lot of gratitude in my life for little things, for big things, for people. I couldn't ask for anything more. Mm-hmm. I'm very happy.
Then what's next for you? What's that next carrot on a stick goal that you're chasing?
Rabbit on a stick?
Yeah, the rabbit on the stick.
The next rabbit on a stick for me, Jude, is on the business side. On the business side, I have some creative expansion ideas. There's feeder markets that Pamela and I, my director of operations, have been talking about expanding into, and ancillary businesses from title to et cetera that we're looking at. And so there's that. It's capturing that. On the personal side, as you know, I have a girlfriend, Lindsay, and we have a great relationship. Our relationship keeps growing, and it's wonderful. My kids are, as you know, they're your siblings basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so the more time we get to spend together, the better life is for me. So it's about quality of life. It's about time and doing the things that matter most. I mean, thankfully, I'm at a point where, see, Florence and I have different philosophies in business. We both want to win, but when she found a difficult client, for her, the win was in closing the deal, helping them list the home and closing the deal. For me, the win is peace of mind and deciding if I want to work with them or not. Don't know which one's right.
Like you said, buying your freedom back.
That's exactly what it is.
What's the point of working so hard if you can't even enjoy the fruits of your labor?
That's exactly it for me. So I get to choose the clients I get to work with. I don't expect everything to be easy and peaceful and breezy, but there comes a point where there's mutual respect or we're not meant for each other. So I have great, so thankful for where I am, excited about the future, personally and in business. Just really thankful about life, you know, and it's at a time where real estate is not easy for a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
It's a privilege, and I don't know how or why, but my market right now has been very strong, and it's going to be a good year for me. I would part of my goal or part of my excitement for the next journey in my life is giving back more, finding causes that I can connect with, helping people to live a life, because there's such a divide in this country. There really is. The haves and the have-nots, and that's not good. Mm-hmm. And part of it's generational, meaning people that I believe that some things can be changed and some things have to die out with the generation. But putting whatever needs to be put in place to help society evolve, to become better and greater and kinder and more giving and more successful, and somehow sharing the life that I've had with other people, giving them hope, belief, and an opportunity.
I know even personally, that's like something that I've always heard about you through the grapevine of the family, just how generous and integratable you've been to less fortunate people. I think that's a good goal to have, to want to give back to less fortunate. And like you said, share the life that you've been blessed and worked so hard for. I think that's awesome.
And thank you. It ends up being something. I'll tell you that my business changed. This was another thing that changed in my business. My business changed when I added a charity component. You know, it's a lot, many years ago. I partnered up with a friend, and we started, Florence and I, and this friend of ours started a magazine together. And it was during the crash of 2007, 8, 9, 10. And the goal was to come up with a publication that celebrated positive things and life and successes in a time where the world was dark. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And we featured, it was a great experience. And I'm not a publisher, but my friend was, and he had great ideas and great vision and created all sorts of wonderful content. And
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
cool.
oh yeah. And then and it was mailed to everybody's home. And what ended up happening is, just through this publication, different charities would call us up and say, hey, will you come to this event? Will you come to that event? Because they saw that we were part of the community. At the back of our magazine, we shared different philanthropic events that were coming. We did spotlights on certain philanthropies. And all of a sudden, when we were involved in the community, I wasn't selling houses anymore. I was a part of something much bigger. I was giving back, and it felt very different. So we brought that philanthropic component into what we do in real estate. And in all of our events, or at most of our events, we have a charity component, and it's done right. It's usually a smaller event, and it's very, I don't want to say emotional, but it's not. There's a real estate component, but it's almost like the real estate's the backdrop. The real forefront is, let's shed some light on people that are struggling or causes or something, and everyone walks away from that changed. Thankful to have been there. It's different.
Get your intentions right.
Get your intentions.
And I think humility is super important in business. Like, even the way you dress, like, no one would know the success that you've achieved. Like, you just wear casual clothes and carry yourself as a humble person and give back, which I think is super, super honorable.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
that was an amazing episode. I appreciate you very much for coming on.
Buddy,
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Comment below who you'd like to come on the show next. This was Soul Sessions. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Awesome, dude.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
About the pissy, with the sound anyway, they ain't never felt me to the Millie's cave. Shit is strange, city screaming name, feelings never change. Get more than I gain to the grave, still I hit complaints. Bitches sit and say, wishing way, waiting against the grain. I ain't never changed, I've been him before I hit the stage. All this really did was steer my way to some better days. They don't want you up, they want you caged, cause they feel the same. Straight on, bitch, I wear it on my arm, I can feel the pain. I ain't been afraid, I went in it with no praise. These minutes turn into days, these feelings turn into shame. I'm clocking in underpaid, but beating minimum wage. I know these lyrics one day gon' open more than the page.